got a training here on using machine translation tools as here with Gwen Daniels and Dennis Rios. I'm going to be turning the presentation over to them, and I'll be monitoring the questions. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to type them in, ask them at any point. Also, I just want to let people know that we will be recording this to post up online at the LSNTAP YouTube channel, which I will show people at the end of the webinar. Thank you so much for coming out on a Friday and attending. So the recording is starting in 3, 2, 1. Turning it over to Gwen. Thank you.
I'm Gwen Daniels. I'm the Director of Technology Development at Illinois Legal Aid Online. We also have on our panel Dennis Rios, who is our Spanish Content and Outreach Coordinator.
Hello, everyone.
The purpose of this webinar is actually to share what we've learned over the 2-year process of creating our Ayuda Legal Illinois website, which was funded as part of a TIG project. And we'll talk about the technology, some of the content development, and also some of the outreach. The site was built using computer-assisted translation. What that is, it's one that combines machine translation tools with a human review. It's been live since January 2012. Ayuda Legal Illinois is one of the 4 websites developed and managed here at Illinois Legal Aid Online. It's our English client site and a website for advocates and a website for pro bono attorneys. We're a little different than most of the states in that we are not on either the Drupal or the Law Help template. We're actually an independent state in terms of our technology platform. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the TIG grant. Was awarded in 2010, and we began work in 2011. The grant was actually awarded to LAF, which used to be the Legal Assistance Foundation of Metropolitan Chicago. Illinois Legal Aid Online is not LSC funded, so we couldn't actually apply for the grant. The total budget for the project was about, well, the total TIG part of the budget was about $157,000. And it funded the creation and promotion of the Ayuda Legal website. It also funded Dennis's position for 2 years. And as part of the creation, it covered integrating the machine translation tools and some additional tools on our website to create mirrored websites. So since we're not an LSC grantee, that led to some differences in how we structured the project than LSC programs probably would. LAF oversaw the grant, and their community engagement unit actually oversaw the outreach component, and they subcontracted with us for the technical development, content translation of existing statewide website content, and the implementation of the outreach plan. We couldn't use any funding for this grant to create new content. We were able, though, to use this project to help us get some additional outside funding from non-LSC sources that allowed us to have our other content managers go out and generate new content. So I'm going to talk a little about this. Dennis will talk about the content and the outreach in a bit, and I'm going to talk about the technology. There are really 3 core pieces to the technology of this project. First is the Google Translate API, which we integrated into our custom content management system. The second piece is the National Subject Matter Index, which we translated, and it provides, like it does on most of the statewide websites, the practice area framework. And finally, we developed a series of tools to make generating and keeping foreign language sites on our platform updated easier. I think that probably the coolest piece from a technical perspective, and the easiest for anybody else to replicate, is the Google Translate API. So what is the Google Translate API? It's a REST-based service that Google created that allows web developers to seamlessly integrate translations into their systems. Basically, REST is just a standard that allows anyone to use a standard HTTP call. And from people who don't know what that is, that basically if you type anything into your web browser, that's a GET request. It says, go out and get this website and display it in my browser. Well, REST works the same way. It says, go out and get this resource and here's some parameters for it and pass me back a result. It's the basis for many of the APIs that are available now to developers to integrate into their websites. That compares to the translate.google.com website, which is separate, but that requires you to copy and paste your text in and copy and paste your text back into the translation, into wherever source you're using. The Translate API is different in that, well, first, it's not free. It's a paid service. But it allows the machine to pass, your website to pass content or data to Google and have Google translate it and then send back a response. I'll show you what that actually looks like. So here's actually a code sample, and this is from Google's documentation. And all somebody has to do to use this is, and almost all programming languages, web programming languages support this, just make it's basically a couple lines of code that say, send a request out to this website, in this case, HTTPS, Google APIs. Here's our key, which is a unique identifier that Google will give you when you sign up for the API. We want, the source language is EN, which is English. In this example, the target language is DE, which is German. And the key, which is the query or the translated text, is hello world. And what you see below it is actually the response from Google. It's an XML file. It's actually a JSON, which is a special format of XML. It says, here's your translated text, and that's the German translation of hello world. So, what does this mean for statewide websites? It means that we can integrate that same GET request in a way in our own content management system that allows us to send our own content to the Google Translate API, have Google translate it and send it back in this JSON format, and then we can do whatever we want with it. And that can be a really powerful thing, and I'll show you exactly what Aleo did with it. We actually integrated it into the content editor pieces of our content management system. So this is a screen of one of the pieces of content on our website. And as you'll see, it's in English. We have you can see the title at the top. There's also a screen before that that has, the typical.
Welcome to GoToWebinar, web events made easy.
We're going to suppress it from the directory, which of our websites it's going to display on. And so what we did was we built this little drop-down that allows us to pick a language. Right now, we only have the Spanish website, but I built the system to support any language right now that is in the Latin character set that Google also supports. We've got some additional issues at the database level that we'll have to work out to support non-Latin character sets. And so what happens is the content manager goes into the English piece of content and selects Spanish off the drop-down. On the back end, we've got a parser that takes that piece of content and breaks it into chunks that Google can manage, sends each of those chunks to Google. Google sends back the translated results and it's all back together. And what happens is it actually goes in with the code on our site and actually duplicates the piece of content. So not only did we translate all of the translatable fields in our content, so the text, the title, the description, the keywords, but we also duplicated all of the stuff that we want to keep in English, like the author and our display settings, our suppression settings, and also our problem codes, any jurisdictions that it's limited to. And what it ultimately means is that Dennis isn't wasting time formatting text or tagging content, because Google Translate also preserves all of your HTML formatting. It means he can focus on actually just reviewing the translations. You know, we've been using Google Translate for about 2 years. And we've learned a few things about it. It does work pretty well as a first pass translation. It's not good enough to be a standalone translation. You're still going to want somebody who understands both the native language and our legalese language. Even when you've written things in plain language, there still needs a human review. But plain language does translate better than anything else. And shorter sentences give better translations. We've also found that Google Translate is continually improving. You know, the more content that Google translates and adds to its index, the better the Google Translate API is going to become. And we found that it does save about 25% of the time that it would take to translate without it. Now, part of that is the fact that we are duplicating all of the formatting and all of the English elements as well. But part of that is it's a little bit easier to edit a translation than it is to write it from scratch. So how much does it cost? You know, when we first submitted the grant, it was free. And then Google did their little spring cleaning, or in this case I think it was a fall cleaning, and said, this is one of the services that we're going to deprecate. We're just not going to have an API anymore. If people want to translate, they can use the website. The developer community had a little bit of a fit, and Google comes back and says, okay, we'll do it, but you have to pay for it. So they came up with pricing of $20 per million characters translated. Well, we've translated about a couple hundred pieces of content, and we've spent about $100. It's actually a very cost-effective way to do machine translation. So the second piece of our project is the National Subject Matter Index, which most of you who have statewide websites know that if it was paid for, at least if it was funded by LSC, that you're probably using this index to tag your own content. Well, we took that 2,000 or so item index and translated the whole thing into Spanish. So that we could use that same framework that's in use on our English website on our Spanish website. We'll make this table, right now it's a table in our database. We'll actually turn it into a Google Doc spreadsheet, and we'll post it and we'll share it with LSNTAP for anyone else to use. And this we did with human translation because it was just faster. And we didn't want to just copy our code from the English site to the Spanish site, mostly because I didn't want to have to maintain two separate sets of code, and every time I make a change in one, I need to make a change in the other. At least not for all of our code. What we wanted was something that would at least also be replicable on future foreign language sites in Illinois. So we came up with this idea of creating a site builder that would take the page layout files from the English website and replace all of the navigation elements and all of the hard-coded text with variable names that could be automatically replaced by a value in a database table for a specific language. There's also a front end to allow Dennis and any future language editors to create and update those foreign language variables. So I'll just show you a sample of what the page template says. And so the top sample is actually the code for the footer on our English website, or for part of the footer. And as you can see, there's some standard HTML, and then there's the text, browse articles, video library. And what we did was actually go in, and this is called Fusion, but you can see where there's the pound signs around things. Those are actually variable names. And so there's a script that we'll run on our site that says, go in, get everything from the Spanish language values table, and replace the homepage link with that link, the browse articles header with the Spanish translation for that, the video library label for the translation for that. And so we only had to translate it once, and as we create new pages, we just put these values in. What this has allowed us to do is to completely separate all of the programming logic from the page templates. The only thing we'll have to do when we create, say our French site or an Italian site is duplicate the folder that has all of these translated templates. But on the front end, we needed a way to manage it, and so we built this mirrored website management system. There's an option to regenerate an existing site, so if we've gone in and changed a translation or changed a setting, we just click the Go button, and it actually recreates the entire website. We can create a new site by hitting the Go button next to that setting. There is still a little bit of manual work that I have to do, just because the database needs to be set up, the domain name needs to be set up. But for the most part, it will actually generate a whole new website. The Manage Site Settings screen actually lets us go in and turn features off. So on the English website, for example, we have an automated document library, we have a Legal Self-Help Center directory. But on the Spanish site, we've gone in and say we're not going to put the Legal Self-Help Center directory on that site because we don't have those all translated. So we just went in and actually turned that off. And on another site where we might not have any automated documents, we might turn the automated document library link off. And then the Manage Template screen actually allows Dennis to go in and pick any of the page templates on our website and go in and edit the translations for them. So I'm now showing you a screen of a page that allows us to edit the home page. And he can go in, and this is for Spanish. We would have similar pages for other languages. He can go in, and if I did the original importation of all of these fields, and I spelled begin here, I copied and pasted his translation wrong. He can go in and fix it. He can then save that file, and it will regenerate the entire website as soon as he's done.
So in setting this up from your side, Gwen, what is the minimum technological skills that somebody needs to do the programming and the interaction with the API?
On the Google Translate thing, it's actually very easy.
Okay.
Google has actually created a series of libraries for most common programming languages. And they don't do one for Cold Fusion, but I will make that code available in Google Docs, and anyone's welcome to copy it.
Okay.
But I do know they do have it for PHP.
So a solid HTML background along with whatever you're using, PHP or whatever scripting language you're using.
Yeah, a little bit of HTML and a little bit of whatever your scripting language is.
Okay. And as far as interacting with this from Dennis's perspective, how much tech background is needed there?
None.
Okay. It looks like it's all forms that he can go in and edit. And
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really easy to use.
Excellent.
Yeah, we try to develop as much on our websites to not require technical expertise. A little bit of HTML is always useful for content editors, but that's true regardless of language.
I definitely agree there.
So, you know, we're actually wrapping up this grant in the next 2 weeks, I think. And as part of that, we put in a milestone that requires us to document and share all of our documentation. So we will put the translated in SMI, all of our variables and their translations that are used on the Spanish website, all of our technical documentation on Google Translate, including all of our code samples, and some technical documentation on how we did the site builder. We will put all that stuff up in Google Docs, and we will share it with LSNTAP so that anyone else who wants to use it or build from it can do so.
So you've taken the whole National Subject Matter Index and translated it?
Yep.
Okay. We will definitely share all of this, and one of the things we'll be looking at over the next grant cycle is updating the National Subject Matter Index. So I will put on our wish list integrating the Spanish translation that you've done as a possible feature.
And we built our translation database off of the same, very similar structure to what was used on the index tool.
Okay.
Database. So it's going to have the same key fields that we put in there to support sharing across the different platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll work with you guys if you want to update the whole thing.
Okay. Excellent.
And now I'm going to turn it over to Dennis to talk about content and marketing for the websites.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dennis Rios. I'm the Spanish Content and Outreach Coordinator for Illinois Legal Aid. And so I was brought on board with this project to build the new Spanish website and this 2-year TIG. So as Gwen mentioned, it's a 2-year project that is coming to an end in January. So we're almost through this initial 2-year term. So the first year was pretty much, just putting together the website, the different features that Gwen was just talking about in order to create the mirror website, and then just kind of selecting the content that we were going to put on the site. One of the sort of characteristics of the TIG was that we were limited to translating content that was on our English website. So we weren't allowed to develop new content. It had to be content that was already on the English website. And I think currently we have around 3,000 different content pieces on the English website. And what you're seeing right now on the screen is one of the marketing materials that we use, one of the flyers that we distribute, which has a picture of the homepage. And just some characteristics of the website, which include the search engine. Right now, the Spanish website has about 300 pieces of content, which include videos. We have a couple of videos on immigration court, VAWA, U visas for victims of crimes. We also have a series of videos for foreclosure, and automated forms, just general articles, and legal guides, or what we call guide me's. We cover around 20 different legal areas. Like I said, videos, automated forms, referrals to legal aid organizations in the area, and as you can see, the homepage has two boxes which you need to fill in, and it basically works, sort of like Google does. So you type in your legal issue, your problem. The second box then asks you for your zip code, and that zip code what it does basically is that it gives you, once you press enter, it'll give you a result for the legal problem that you typed into the first box. So it'll give you, if there's any videos related to your issue, articles, your legal guides, that'll give you that list. And then what the SIP code does is that it'll also give you a list of the legal aid organizations that service your area. And it also gives you the appropriate set of instructions for your county. So if there's a legal guide that's trying to guide you through the process for foreclosure or divorce, then you'll get the appropriate instructions, where that are applicable to your area or to your county. So what courthouse you need to go to, telephone contact information, number of copies that you have to make for a petition and stuff like that. It also, so again, the website, I mean, it's a mirror website of the English one. It has the same, functionality, the same feel, the same feel to it, and so it also includes that click-to-chat option. So we do have bilingual volunteers that staff the Life Help feature, and so if people, are having problems finding maybe the content that they need, or maybe they're just not that savvy with, with navigating online or with the website, they can just click on the click-to-chat button, and they'll get a volunteer that will help them navigate through the website. So again, we don't provide legal advice. The volunteers are not attorneys, so they can't provide legal advice, but they can guide you to the information that you're looking for. Whether it's a certain article or if, a certain legal guide, or whether it's an organization that you're trying to locate. And so that's sort of the way the website works. And on the bottom of the screen, you can see just direct links that will take you to a video library or a catalog for the automated forms and stuff like that. If people prefer to kind of take a look at the content that way, then that's also an option. And there's also a link that will take you over to the English website. So there's an English link that, if you click on it, it'll take you over to that website as well.
So Eva asks, how often are the volunteers available?
So initially, when we started the project, we're having a hard time getting bilingual volunteers. So we staffed it initially for 20 hours, 20 hours a week. So that was another thing that we had to figure out what the best times would be. The times that people were actually trying to access the website, and then after that, we were able to move up those hours to, I believe it was about 28 hours a week. And so the idea is to get it, fully staffed, about 40 hours a week. But we are having a little bit of the amount of people that have been using the actual chat hasn't been that high, so we're trying to figure out how to promote that feature. And if anybody has any ideas on that, I'd appreciate any feedback as well. But yeah, basically the schedules that we have originally was I think we had from like 9 to 12, and then from like 3 to 5.
So where are you hosting, or how are you hosting your videos?
So the videos, like I said, there's two ways that you can get to the videos. One is the link that's at the bottom there, which says Videoteca, so video library, and that'll just take you directly to the video library, which is divided by legal areas. So there's one for housing and one for immigration. And if you click on that, then it'll show you what kind of videos we have on housing or immigration.
So are those videos hosted directly on the Illinois Legal Aid online site, or are they from YouTube and embedded?
It depends on the type of video. If it's one of our produced videos, then those are posted on YouTube and embedded. If they are webcasted videos, then those are actually hosted on our website. So if we had done like a live webinar and then archived it. Those we host on our own servers.
Okay, because we've definitely found in moving our videos from being hosted locally on LSNTAP to being hosted on YouTube that our views on those have increased by about 400%, and it's become one of our better sources of people coming back to our site. So,
wow, that's great. Yeah. So So as I mentioned, it's like right now the way you can access those is either through the video library or when you do a direct search. The content result will have a little link on the right in blue, which basically tells you if it's a video, if that piece of content is a video, if it's a legal guide, or just a general article in that sense. If we could go to the next slide, please. So when we started the project, we were thinking of what would be the best way to go forward with sort of deciding what content to include, some of the features that the website would have, and how to also promote the website, with the Hispanic community here in Illinois. So we decided that the best way to go forward would be to put together an advisory committee that would advise us on what content to include on the website, and also to help in promoting the website once the site was up and live. So we put together the Spanish Website Advisory Committee, or as we call it, the SWAC. And it's basically comprised of 7 local pro-Latino organizations, which include the 3 LSE-funded organizations, which is LAF, which covers Cook County, Prairie State Legal Services, which covers pretty much the north part of the state, and Land of Lincoln Legal Services, which covers the southern part of the state. We also included Latinos Progresando, which is an organization that's right at the heart of the Hispanic neighborhood in Little Village, or La Villita, as they call it here. They take on a lot of immigration cases. Especially been busy now with the whole DACA procedures, or deferred action for childhood arrivals. We also have somebody from Catholic Charities, somebody from the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund, or MALDEF, and another person from the National Immigrant Justice Center. And so the advisory committee, or SWAC, was meeting every other month. So basically we would meet and just kind of, well, the first step was to put together a list of prioritized content from the English website that was to be translated and included onto the new Spanish website. So they reviewed the list and just, kind of, we wanted to make sure that the stuff that was going to be on there was articles and information that was relevant to the Latino community, that was information that they were going to use. Just make sure, you just want to make sure that the content was current and as useful as possible for that specific population.
So another question that we've got here, which is from Kathleen Caldwell. Gwen, do you have any other reasons for hosting the webinar videos locally?
Well, in the webcast videos, because they are actually streamed live initially. And so we actually have a video server with running Flash Media Server on it that provides all of the streaming capability.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had that since about 2003, back before there was any other any other options.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just continued to use that platform. And so once they're recorded, they are actually stored as FLVs, or Flash videos, with all of the limitations of that. And then we've got a builder in our content management system that actually allows our content team to go in and chapter the copy of the live webcast into chapters that can be watched later. And that's the reason why we continue to host that locally, but we've moved all of our produced videos, which we used to host locally, to YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if we could go to the next slide, please. Are there any other questions there, Brian?
No, we've
Okay.
covered the questions so far.
Okay. All right. So, so again, as we mentioned, the website has been live for about almost a year now. So in January, it'll be a year. As we mentioned, it's about 300 articles that are live, including videos, automated documents, and legal guides. And these are the top content views for the Spanish website. So that's actually in Spanish. I don't know if we can. We have those. There we go. Voila, in English. So, and if we could see on the right, you're going to see now the top content views for the English website. So this is, this is really important also to consider. As you can see, the content is very different. So it differs very much from the English website to the Spanish. So definitely the top articles on the Spanish one, as you can see, have to do a lot with immigration, which, it's not really that shocking, but it's definitely something to consider when when you're building a new Spanish website. I think initially when we started the project, we thought that in prioritizing the content that we were going to translate, we thought that it would be reasonable to start off with the top content from the English website. But really, you really have to focus on what what the issues are of that specific population. So definitely one of the things to keep in mind when building a website in another language.
No, that's extremely useful, very practical.
Mm-hmm. And if we could go to the next slide, please. So after we launched the website about 4 months into the launch, we conducted usability testing of the website. So we got a couple of folks from the community to come in and test out the website. And for the most part, the people were pretty happy with it. There was a couple of tweaks that we had to do here and there, and modifications. Yeah, but the way we did the usability testing, we had about I believe it was about 8 testers. We did it throughout 3 days. So people kind of came in. We had a computer for them. We had a camera. We gave them a set of exercises for them to conduct. We timed them on the exercises and just sort of observed and try to figure out where what parts people were maybe having more difficulty. But yeah, overall the usability testing went very well. As far as marketing, we reached out to several newspapers and publications. We did a couple of radio shows in the local sort of Hispanic radio stations, and they've been very supportive. The radio stations, and more than happy to have us on there and talk about the website and the different resources, especially with these times when folks are in need of legal representation and with this economy, everybody's asking about what resources are out there, so they've been very supportive. I've also been doing several presentations throughout Chicago and just generally the state, and just sort of basically doing live presentations on the website, its functionality. We've been working also with the legal aid community here. They've distributed the flyers that we just showed a couple of slides ago, as well as cards that have the URL of the website. So on one side it'll have the information on the English website, and the other side has information for the Spanish website.
So what was the biggest thing that was either surprising or useful that came out of that usability testing?
Mostly it was like with, I think that the things that we, yeah, I guess the things that were most useful was some people had, some issues finding, like locating the actual like print button or icons for to email the article or certain content, to themselves or to other people. That's some of the functions that are, that are on the website. So just trying to decide where to put that on the website that people, that it would be just kind of like natural for people to locate. Some people would, like their first instinct would be to look for, the print button or the email button at the bottom of the article. Others, would look for it at the top of it. So just kind of that's something that we had to kind of sit down and figure out where where those icons were best would be best fitted or located in order for people to find those. So that was useful. We also like sort of the terms that they would use to search for different legal issues. That was also useful. Obviously because we want to make sure that when people type in their legal issue, they're getting the appropriate results. So and a lot of certain words and terms that people were using was just something that maybe we or I hadn't thought of. Certain terms that people would use. So that was also useful for us to include those terms in our sort of keywords for a search engine.
That's also something I've definitely seen captured on some websites, that they will take a list of what terms people are putting into the search engine over time and then work on improving what results come up, because there's often a disconnect between the users and the lawyers who may have put together that taxonomy. That's definitely extremely useful.
We've actually, since about 2002, have actually recorded every search term entered in on all of our websites. And there's a report mechanism in our content management system that we can actually see how people are searching our website, and we've got a set of tools on both the English and Spanish website that allow the content managers to go up and reorder search results at a search term level. And we call it our move up, move down feature. So I can go in and enter a search term and run it just like a user, and instead of seeing what they would see, I see a list of content along with the score. And then I can rearrange the order, and then the next time somebody searches on that particular search term, they get our reordered search results.
Excellent. That's a great feature.
And if we could go to the next slide, please, that'd be great. All right, so these are basically some stats on the website and its usage over the last, it's been 11 months, I guess. So as you can see, we've gotten 46,000 visitors. So that's about 5,000 visitors per month. That's more or less the number of hits that we've been getting. So 81% of that has been search traffic, so people just looking for information on Google or other engines. 8% referral, people who link out to our website, and 10% direct traffic, so for people who are just typing in directly at ayudalegalillinois.org. You can see the map there of the U.S., which shows you that we've obviously most of the visitors here in the U.S. Come from Illinois, but we're also getting a lot of hits from California, Texas, Florida, and New York mainly. And we're getting a lot of traffic also from abroad. specifically from Spain, Mexico, and Latin America. Another interesting piece of information here is the mobile usage. So as you can see, between 25 and 27% of the visits to our website are actually coming from mobile devices, which it's interesting because if you compare it to our English website, it's only 16%, even though our English website now has a mobile app. So that's something that we thought was really interesting, that we're getting about 25% of people visiting the website from mobile devices.
And it's actually a much higher percentage. It's closer to, I think, about 35% when we exclude non-U.S. traffic, when we exclude Spain and Mexico and Latin America.
Oh, wow.
I actually just ran those a couple days ago.
Yeah, so
Yeah, that's something we should add to our mobile guide.
Yeah.
We'll
Absolutely.
definitely update that.
We definitely have hope in the future to develop. Initially, we were thinking of doing a mobile app for the Spanish website. I think now we're moving more towards or thinking about doing a mobile website. Is that correct, Gwen?
Yeah, I think that's correct.
So yeah, I mean, it'll be really interesting, if our numbers right now are at 37% here in the States. It'd be interesting to see how those numbers increase once we're able to launch a mobile website for the Spanish content.
So there's a question here from Kathleen, which is, doesn't this just generally mirror the demographics for urban Hispanic mobile users? And I'm not sure about Illinois, but in Seattle, that's definitely parallel with the younger demographics that City of Seattle has done, although the mobile use for older demographics have definitely been much less. But via Google Analytics, there's no way to tell which age population is particularly using the tech.
Yeah, absolutely. The charts that you're seeing, and they're all from Google Analytics. And like you said, unfortunately, we can't really determine the ages of the people that are coming to our websites. We can see where the hits are coming from, the states and counties, what sort of devices people are using, whether, again, if it's a mobile device, if they're using an Android device, or if it's an iPhone or a tablet. We do have that data available through Google Analytics. Yeah, but we unfortunately aren't able to determine the ages, which would be fantastic. But I agree with you, Brian. I'm sure that the younger populations access the internet on their mobile devices more often than maybe older populations. Well, and the other thing is that and I was looking at these numbers also on, I believe it was for the Pew Center, and the number, I think it's about 49% of Hispanics own a smartphone, which is the highest percentage for any racial group. So that was interesting to find, which again, makes sense that we're getting so many hits, for mobile devices, and that this percentage is higher than the percentage for the English website. So yeah, we as soon as we're able to get funding and resources, we definitely want to launch the mobile website in order to make this more accessible. And and it also makes sense. Like we said, it's everybody has a smartphone now, and it's much easier to to get a lot of these phone companies, will give you, a smartphone for free, with what is it, a 1-2 year contract. So it's definitely easier to have access to a smartphone than maybe to a computer that could be, a couple of hundred, or I mean, despite the fact that they have been getting a little bit more accessible financially, but again, smartphones are definitely, I think, more accessible right now. And if we could go to the next slide, please. All right, so lessons learned basically throughout this project. As far as the prioritized content, as I mentioned, and you saw in the top content for the Spanish website and the top content for the English website, they're very different. So it's it's very important that when you're putting together the content that you want to include in the new website for the foreign language, that you take into consideration specifically what the needs of that population are, because again, the information that they're going to be accessing, even though we all have the same issues across the board, there's certain areas that will definitely be of more interest to that specific population with limited language access. So definitely one of the things to consider when you're putting together that list. And again, as I said, with this TIG, we were limited to just the translating content that was on the English website. So now that this 2-year project is about to end and moving forward, we're definitely taking another approach in which if to focus more on what sort of content the Hispanic population needs, and if we do have that content on the English website, then we'll go ahead and translate it. But if it's not developed yet, then we want to move more towards developing that content and making it available, so people have access to that. The other thing also that we found that would have been useful to sort of look into while translating the content for the Spanish website was to check the quality assurance for all this content, especially when English content is going to be changed or modified. So basically the issue here was that when we put together the translation list, we took the top content from the English website, which, like I said, right now we've modified that approach. And as we started translating it, we realized that some of that content, was being either updated or was being turned into a legal guide. So maybe 2 or 3 content pieces were being combined into one legal guide. And so that's definitely something that you should consider. Just make sure that the content that you're translating isn't going to be modified a month after, because then that'll just create, you'll have to go in and translate that new article again, and then you lose those that 1, 2, or 3 content pieces that are being combined. So that's just a tip to consider when you're.
And we also have sort of an automated quality assurance system on our website, as part of our content management system, that assigns out using an algorithm, assigns content on the English sites to be substantively reviewed. And what we found is that we probably should have thought about this a year ago. How do we then if our English content managers are going in and substantively updating English content, and there happens to be a mirrored copy on the Spanish site, what tools do we need to develop in our content management system that will allow Dennis to be automatically notified that he needs to go in and review the Spanish piece of content. And that's a process we're actually working through right now.
Just to let you guys know, I lost audio there for 3 or 4 minutes. Not sure if a few quick comments came in with regards to the cell phone, but there was definitely some comments in the question area over the high level of adoption amongst the Hispanic community with regards to smartphones specifically, and the higher representation with regards to Android phones, where in the overall market, iPhones tend to be about 70%, but they're down below 50% in the Hispanic market, and the need to test on both platforms.
Yeah, I mean, and part of that is that, at least, you know, I live in a neighborhood that is largely Latino, and there's at least 2 or 3 of the prepaid cell phone vendors in the neighborhood. And so far, the iPhone is not available on those. But you can walk in and walk out with an almost free or free Android phone. And I think that that's a big, the prepaid market is a big reason why the Android numbers are so much higher.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, and also a lot of the prepaid companies. I mean, for example, I myself use Cricket. And Cricket doesn't have. Actually, they just got the iPhone, but I think it's only available in like Texas and California, and just a couple of cities. And like these companies that have these sort of no contract phone services have like their international sort of services for like international texting. It'll be for like $5, I think, is what they charge, and also if you want access to international calling, I think it might be like an additional $10 or something. So they definitely made it very accessible for for immigrants to to get those phones and reach out to their families or connect with their families abroad. So again, I think it makes sense. I think that's one of the reasons why the iPhone isn't on top on those statistics.
Well, and yeah, the City of Seattle study that I was referencing earlier also definitely mentioned, as someone else here in the comments mentions, that there's a technological skip moving over laptops and PCs directly to smartphones as a major way to access the internet and get access to that technology.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and that's I guess that's pretty much what I have on the website. I mean, again, it's been a very exciting project. When I'm originally from LA, so when I came here to Chicago, I was a little bit surprised that there really wasn't that many, or hardly any resources in Spanish, any legal resources in Spanish here in Chicago. And this this experience with this project and just using the Google Translate and seeing how it's improved, as Gwen mentioned earlier. When I started working on the translations almost 2 years ago, and using the Google Translate, it has improved significantly since I started using it, and it's definitely getting smarter. Again, I'm not sure what sort of steps Google is taking to enhance that software, but it's definitely getting better and getting smarter. As Gwen mentioned, I mean, it's you can't definitely you can't rely on it 100%. The technology is not there, but it definitely helps you save about 25% of the time that it would take you to start from scratch with a translation, and it's particularly useful for people who may not be as savvy or as experienced in doing translations. Just because it gives you a starting point. With terms and yeah. what terms that are used or suggestions that you can use as far as um, the different translations and terms that are available. Gwen, do you have anything else that you would like to add?
No, other than, on the screen now you have Dennis and my email addresses. If anyone has questions or wanted to talk about the Google Translate or the technology stuff, feel free to contact me. If you want to talk about the content outreach pieces or the Google Translate in practice, I would suggest emailing Dennis.
Well, I wanted to got one question here from Eva. In my organization, we work with a lot of French speakers in Beardstown, Illinois. Any signs that this or another language will be available soon? Because it looks like the technology that you mentioned there, you have an innate, it's possible to use other technologies.
Google Translate will support French immediately. You just select a different destination language. You just use FR instead of ES, which is the two-digit ISO code for the languages that's what Google uses. So that piece is immediately replicable. And yeah, I could probably in about a week put up an Illinois French website, but I don't have a French content and outreach coordinator to actually populate it with content. And that was the biggest part of the budget of our project. The technology part is always the easy part. It's the content development and the outreach that's the hard part.
Yeah, and I guess as far as far as the translations, it just it's funny that you're mentioning the question comes from this person in Beardstown. I actually did a presentation out there at their local library a couple of months ago, and I do remember there was a couple of folks there that only spoke French. So we're trying to figure out how to how to do the presentation for them. But yeah, again, the idea, this is our first non-English website, and as Gwen mentioned, all the software that she's developed, the system that she's developed for for creating these mirror websites have the functionality of recreating other languages. So the idea again is in the future to have the other languages available on the website. So hopefully, French, Polish, which are some of the main languages that are used here in Illinois. And as far as the translation, it's I just want to make it clear that you really need to have somebody who has a good grasp of legal terminology and is able, to review the content after Google goes through it, review the content and make the appropriate edits to it. I think, in reviewing and sort of making the content ready to be viewed and made live on the website, you're not only translating it, but you're also softening the language, for people to understand it, and specifically here to Illinois and to the Spanish language, you also have to consider, is it Colombian Spanish? Is it Puerto Rican Spanish? Because a lot of the terms used, for example, in New York, which they have a high population of Puerto Ricans, would be very different to the terms used maybe, or the terms that we're using here in Illinois when 86% of the Latino population comes from or are from Mexican descent. So you definitely want to keep that in mind as well. The terms, a lot of the terms that you're going to be using or keywords are going to be very different depending on the country that folks are from. So I would say even for like the French-speaking folks and and moving forward, if and when we do develop a French website, I mean I can't remember what country the folks from Beardstown were that were French speakers, but yeah, I mean that's also another thing that's important to consider when you're doing these translations.
Yeah, Eva mentions Congo. Where many of the French speakers are from there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and also to give you a little background, I'm originally from Los Angeles, but I've spent about half my life in Mexico. I have a law degree from Mexico, and then I did my master's in law here in the States. So I'm being familiar with the legal lingo in the U.S. and Mexico has definitely helped me a lot with this project. But it's definitely challenging at times with when deciding what terms to use and what people or what words people are actually using. Versus what would be maybe the appropriate legal term in Spanish, because a lot of times if you use the appropriate legal term in Spanish, they're not going to understand what you're trying to say. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted to say thank you so much to both of you, Gwen and Dennis, for the presentation. We're going to have this up on our YouTube channel, which should be coming up on the screen here, and will be available hopefully within the week. It's LSNTAP videos. This concludes our training series for this year, and we're going to be starting our training series much earlier next year. Our request for proposals will be going out within the next week, and we should be starting our training series at the end of January to stagger it all the way through the year next year. So back on the LSNTAP website, under trainings, we'll have them all posted throughout the year, and hopefully even have registration up much earlier this next year. So thank you so much for the presentation, and also for everybody coming out and contributing to the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming.